Sean Sansom and Mike Hill are the co-heads of makeup and pre-cosmetics in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I want to start things off by asking you both, what were you most curious about this project? Sean?
How we were going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. It was a pretty extensive show. It's basically like working on 8 films, not 8 episodes.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah. Basically the same as Sean said. That's what it was, is how much time do we get to build before the next episode starts? And so we had to come up with a plan of involving other shops and stuff to make this, this effort work really well.
Yeah. And I guess it is 8 different like films or stories that are told by different directors in this anthology series. Which sort of character were you most proud of doing the makeup for, or that was maybe the biggest feat for you guys to accomplish? Sean?
Oh, I was going to hand it over to Mike because
okay, Mike. Yeah, start with Mike.
Well, I was going to hand over to Sean. For me, I mean, sometimes the most, ambitious ones, like Dottie, where we had to make 2 full suits, dead suits, and decayed flesh, and skin with muscles and fats and all that, they seem like they would be, but sometimes it's the smaller, tighter makeups that are exciting to do, My 2 top favorites are both the witches we did, both for Pickman's model and, of course, for Dreams in the Witch House. So they were the 2 that, unfortunately, the first one didn't get a lot of coverage on screen, but it was still a good character. I was still very proud of it. So I think those 2 was the most tightest that I liked, as opposed to a real elaborate creature suit,
Hmm. Sean?
And Sean?
Sean?
No, I was going to say that's probably the same thing. I mean, the Wood Witch from Dreams in the Witch House would be the most rewarding because she did get the most screen time.
Yeah,
I mean, she was essentially a main character in the episode, and out of all the other characters, as much as you see them you get fleeting glimpses of all the creatures in all the episodes, but she had the biggest role. Yeah,
and they really, lit her really good, and they really respected the makeup itself because they lit it so good, they shot it so well, the performance was so good. So yeah, I mean, it was one to be proud of, and I think that we made a memorable character.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point that in this series where it's like horror, often like a lot of the show is the suspense and waiting for the monster or the witch or the ghoul or whatever it is, so that they come out, but they don't have the amount of screen time because a lot of it is the anticipation of them coming. I'm glad you both mentioned Dreams in the Witch House because that is the episode you have chosen to submit for the Emmy Awards this year. I'm assuming for some of the reasons you've just given. But could you talk to us about doing the makeup for that witch and what the biggest sort of challenge was in approaching her? And I think she's over your shoulder, Mike, as well.
That's correct. Yeah, this is the Wood Witch right here. This is the actual appliances and the whole getup that we did for the movie, and this is the second witch from Pickman's model. But for the Wood Witch, to answer your question, it started out with a loose concept between Guy and Guillermo del Toro of how they thought this creature should look. And those 2 have a shorthand, so that gets us going. And then we get that sketch, and we have to then, figure out how you can make this practical, because a lot of what you can draw it doesn't mean we can make it in 3D and make it feasible. You can draw anything in pencil. Fortunately, Guy knows that, and Guy's very good around that. So then I take what he did and I tighten the design and then turn it to a sculpture, which was then we sculpted her face, her neck, gloves, the chest on her, and also we created the hat as well. So it's a pretty, it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, like a 6-piece makeup, I'd say, if I can remember correctly. So, and it went together really well. It was a fun character. Again, as I said, we kind of hit a home run, from design from the beginning. There wasn't any changes much needed. So that in itself becomes a memorable character. And again, just as you touched on as well, right there, is to see your creature in all its glory and get to see some real screen time where you can admire it and look at what you did, and you know the audience has seen the work you put into it, that's extremely satisfying. And that's why, I think Sean and I both love the Dreams in the Witch House, because again, you can spend weeks on something that gets shot in the blink of an eye. But to actually let the audience absorb it and see she's made of this, and see that she's got liquids running out of her, and see that she's leaking tree oil, all the stuff we put in there, we want people to see that, That's for sure.
Yeah, Sean?
And then we want
to also sorry.
Go ahead, Sean. No, go ahead. Okay.
I was going to say also with the character, it's also a very large collaboration with other departments, like with costumes. Was whatever Guy Davis had drawn in the concept, it also transfers over to the art department. So like their set design, they're also putting in roots and twigs and everything that kind of look like the same ones that are part of the costume and what Mike did on the bonnet. So it all kind of goes hand in hand, because she has to kind of blend in with that little house that she lives in as well. The color scheme, like everything has to work together. So having that tight group of people that we work with is really great.
And you've both worked with Guillermo del Toro before. What is sort of special about the way he tells stories and working on a project with him?
Go on, Sean.
Well, I think, as Mike said before, but Guillermo is very detail based. Like he's very focused on the small details, and he's got that design sense too. So he knows which direction he wants to see it in, and he kind of guides everybody to follow suit. And he allows people to, have their input, make suggestions, but he kind of pushes everybody to do their best work.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro, and I've often quoted this, and I have to do it again. He just makes you a better artist because he himself is an artist. So he knows these creatures better than we do. Certainly Lovecraft creatures. So he puts all his input on his notes, and we go with his guidance. That's our job, is to make his vision, real. But as Sean said, it's not that he doesn't, it's not that we've got our hands tied, not one bit. If we can make it better, he's all for that. We can improve them. And also, if we say that won't work, we think this will work better. Guillermo listens. He's not, he's not locked on what he wants. But it's what's really good is he does have a great eye. So if all else fails, you just do exactly what he wants, and he's going to look great anyway. Because it is the attention to detail, and it is a second eye, almost a third eye, I should say. It's a third eye of what Guillermo has, because he'll spot the littlest thing. He'll look behind you on your thing now behind you and say, "Hey, that air is the wrong way around." That thing.
Yeah.
And he just spots it, man. You can build a mansion for him, the scariest mansion in the world, and he will focus on there's not enough rust on one pinhead in a corner. And he's just having a great eye, and I really respect him for it.
Yeah. Is he, like, just you mentioning that, is he also like a guy who asks a lot of whys? Like, is he quite curious? Is he like, oh, why have we done this? Why have we done that? Like, does he?
He normally knows why, or he's told us to do it. So yeah.
I love it. We're an awards website at Gold Derby. Obviously, The Shape of Water, which you both worked on, did very well for Guillermo at the Oscars. But Sean, you are also you're an Emmy winner for Grey Gardens in 2009. What did that Emmy win mean to you, and what's maybe something you learnt from the work you did on that show?
Well, that was a whole other thing, because that was a character makeup, like an old age character makeup, and we had to make somebody, like we had to make Jessica Lange look like Big Edie, and we had to make Drew Barrymore look like Little Edie. So it was trying to duplicate real characters that existed is a lot harder than coming up with a new design. Well, sometimes, but you can't avoid what they look like, or you can't cheat. I mean, you basically have to make them look like the way they looked. And I was scared to death to work on that show because of that reason, because the smallest thing, you can fail horribly so fast. And I mean, it was Bill Corso that designed everything and did the test makeups, and Vivian Baker that was handling Drew Barrymore's makeup. and they've, they worked out all the bugs beforehand. So I felt a little more at ease going into that. So I was just one of the team just helping out.
Mike, was there like before, like, is there a film or something that when you were growing up that just sort of captivated you about makeup and sort of like made you think, like, oh, I want to get into this?
Two films. One was The Curse of the Werewolf, a Hammer film in 1960. And the second one was, of course, Frankenstein, 1931, with Boris Karloff. They're the ones that I think are the Curse of the Werewolf, Oliver Reed, Frankenstein's monster makeup, Karloff, and Charles Laughton's Hunchback. I think they're the greatest monster makeups because they use the actor's face. You still see the actor. He's not covered in rubber, and he emits a soul. So I think they're really successful makeups. I don't think they've been beaten to this day, So that's what got me into it. And then, to cut a long story short, I wanted to be a comic book artist. And then I saw Making Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I saw that these young guys were doing these makeups, these long-haired guys with monster T-shirts on. They weren't, men in lab coats and shirts and ties and, I don't know, professors doing this. There wasn't real doctors doing this. It was all make-believe. So I realized if they could do it, then I could do it. Although I was 10,000 miles away, But here we are, right?
Oh, and is that Frankenstein? Is that a picture from the film over your shoulder, or there's a Frankenstein over your shoulder?
Oh, actually, that is that photograph we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a photograph of my dad with a giant, like 5 foot tall Frankenstein head I made that Guillermo quickly purchased. So.
Oh, awesome! Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
It hangs in Guillermo's house now. Yeah.
Sean, what do you think is the secret to great makeup?
Oof, that's a tough one. I think, like Mike said, though, it's where it allows the actor to perform and come out. Like it's their performance that brings the makeup to life. Like you could have somebody covered, slathered in rubber, but like take for example the Elephant Man. With John Hurt, you can't see who it is, but his performance comes through. Like it's allowing him to perform, and I think that's what makes it. It's more it's allowing the actor to do their job.
Yeah. And it's you have to confer with the director and the actor themselves. Is how much do we want the said person to show through, the real guy? Let's pick a name, George Clooney. How much George Clooney do you want to show through? Do we want to really make him look like, I don't know, Jack the Ripper, or are we keeping some George Clooney in there? Jack the Ripper, bad analogy again. Someone historical, or do we keep George Clooney in there? And that's where the line is drawn, and there's only so much we can do as well, because a likeness to a face isn't just muscles and noses and extremities. Your eyeballs are positioned so close together, and the width of your mouth. So there's only so much we do, that when the actor will come through, unless we do cover him in a low lot of rubber, which then defeats the acting purpose, because now we can't even see who it is anymore. So it's a fine line, and it's a lot of people's input that we have to take, but it's always fun. That's what matters.
Oh, that's good. What's the thing for each of you that you think is the most sort of special thing about this project and this series? It can be what you did on it, or it could be more just broadly what you love about the show. Sean? Or Mike? Either or.
Oh, go ahead.
I like the idea of it because it reminded me, and I know this has been said before about the show, but it reminded me of The Night Gallery or Twilight Zone, especially with Guillermo hosting the show. But before that, it was the anthology. Like one of my favorite films is Creepshow, and I like the Tales from the Crypt series and all that. I like the fact that there's a different story being told all the time. It's not like, I do like series where it's a continual thing where the story can evolve and characters can develop and everything else. But I do like the short horror films, like the short horror stories where it's short and sweet, get it out of the way, move on to something else. And it allows more to be shown rather than focusing on one topic through, draw it out over an entire series. You've got these great little stories.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think for myself, it was all of the above what Sean said, but it was also the fact that Guillermo was going to be doing some Lovecraft tales, or spearheading some Lovecraft tales. And for me, for Guillermo and Lovecraft, that was a good place to, make some creatures for. That was a once in a lifetime, possibly do a Lovecraft film with Guillermo. Because, I know it wasn't actually that, but there was elements, in there. So that was exciting for me, to go Lovecraft dark,
Yeah.
Not defang our monsters, not make it tongue in cheek, really solid, straight, a straight leveled TV show that was scary, that was atmospheric. And when the laughs were there, they were intentional laughs. They were jokes written, and it wasn't the whole thing is to be laughed at. These silly creatures. It was like, oh no, this is really happening. This person's turning into a hag. This person is half man, half rat. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and just very quickly, Sean, I see, I've checked this in with Mike. Was there a film that inspired you to get into makeup, or just captured your imagination with that? I see so many film posters in your background.
Yeah, I mean, it's I didn't really see the Universal shows as a kid, and it was more the Ray Harryhausen films, like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, seeing the Cyclops, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, all that stuff. As a child, I saw that, and then I did see the Universal films, but it was like American Werewolf in London, The Thing. It was those early '80s movies that really wanted me to do this. Great creatures and do the prosthetics and makeup effects.
Oh, awesome. Well, Sean and Mike, thank you so much for your time today. All the best of luck with the Emmy Awards.
Thanks, Matt.
For the Witch House episode. Hopefully you do really well. And people watch this interview, can go to goldderby.com to follow our awards coverage. Yeah, and just thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.